Shall we begin? Kindly join me for the invocation. समस्त जन कल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरिः ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ॐ। Hari Om to all. A very warm welcome once again to our spirituality talks on every weekend. Today being our 5th weekend. Shall I quickly take you all to what we had done last time? We spoke of Vedas. What were Vedas that we have understood? Vedas are an authority of knowledge, scriptural knowledge, which principally deals with the subjective knowledge, the knowledge of the self, and also with the objective knowledge of the world. So it has both the kind of knowledges. We also learnt that for learning Vedanta, just as any other subject, we must first learn its basics, understand the terminologies, and clearly grasp the concepts. Only then we could use it well in our lives. By now, I'm sure all of you may have memorized the topic and the title of our sessions. 3 words: Vedanta, Jnana, Yajna. Today, I'm going to use our time for that center word, Jnana, that we have been speaking of, that we spoke of knowledge per se. What does it mean? What does it mean by knowledge per se? In the normal life, in our world, whenever we use the word knowledge, it is to know or what we know. So knowledge is to know or what we know already. However, if I give you an example, how do we come to know about things? If I ask you, how do we come to know about things? The Shastra says 5 words: Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, meaning by hearing, or by seeing, or by touching, or by tasting, or by smelling. These are the 5 apertures. We call it as the Indriyas, the organs of perception by which we receive knowledge from the world outside. Other than these 5, there is not any 6th way that we can receive knowledge from the world. These are the apertures which contact the world and we receive knowledge. So, for example, when we say, I see you, that is the time we are using our eyes. When I go and touch somebody, as soon as I touch, I can feel you. Or the best example, as soon as a sweet meat lands on our mouth, on the tongue, on the palate, you say, wow, and it explains all. Means what? I can taste it, and so on and so forth. These knowledge are called direct knowledge. This is how we gain knowledge from the outer world. Direct knowledge. This is called in Sanskrit as Pratyaksha Jnanam. Direct knowledge. But there is another way that we also understand. For example, if somebody asks me, excuse me, what is the time? Then I say, oh, I forgot to wear the watch today, but I think it should be about 2:30. What is this knowledge? This is an assumption knowledge. For example, if somebody says, excuse me, do you know this person called XYZ? You say, not really, but I think the person, meaning what? You said you don't know. But if you don't know, then how can you say about him? Because we assume. This assumption knowledge is called Anuman knowledge. This is how science also works. Science first assumes a thing. They conceptualize an idea. And then later on they try and prove the concept. Isn't it? But would there be a third way of understanding things? In these first two examples, we used either a direct perception or an assumption to know knowledge. For example, me and my friend is sitting in the room, it's night, and we have turned all the lights in the room beautifully, and we can see each other, and we are having a wonderful dialogue, and look, suddenly the light goes and everything becomes pitch dark. Everything is pitch dark. And I ask, oh, are you there? He will say, yes, I am. But if I tell him, can you pass the book? He'll say, no, I can't see it. But he can't see himself also. But still he knows he is. What is that knowledge? What is that knowing? In the Shastra, in Vedanta Shastra, it is known as immediate knowledge, aparoksha jnanam, for which you do not need any equipments like the eyes, nose, hands. You just know you are. You don't know, you don't need any external stimuli to tell you. You don't need the light to tell you whether you have a hand or not. Does any one of you are confused or they don't know that they have nose on their face without looking at their face? No, you know there is the nose there. The knowledge by itself, knowledge per se. But one may say that I know my body, so my mind knows my body. So I am using my mind as an equipment. Correct. Your mind is being equipped. But this is that knowledge we are now going to speak of. Vedanta speaks of that knowledge which is beyond these indriyas, the external organs, beyond the mind, by which you will not need your mind also. Is there such knowledge? Let's take a quick example. Very quickly. All of us sleep. Just before we sleep, how uncomfortable we are. We just want to leave everything and go to sleep. And then slowly we go into the nice warm bed and go to sleep. Just before you have fallen asleep, you will need a cushion under your face, under your body. You will need something warm on your body. But once you have fallen asleep, what happens to the body? The body is remained behind. There is no body consciousness left. Then the mind comes into play. Then you are in the dream world. You're watching the dream and everything, to a point where you suddenly don't know anything. But in the morning, your wife wakes you up. Hello, wake up. It is 7 o'clock. And you wake up and say, what? It is 7? I don't even know how did the time go. Where did the time go? What happened? Till the time you were dreaming, your mind was at play. But once you went into deep sleep, your mind is left behind. But upon waking, someone was there who knew that you didn't know anything. I don't know when did the time go. That is the statement you say. Who is that knower beyond the mind? That knowledge per se is the knowledge word we are using here. Vedanta Jnana. That Jnana, that knowledge, by knowing which you know your innermost self, for which you don't need the external organs and equipment. Time is up. Very quickly, let me go through it. We in the world know knowledge as to gain knowledge with the organs of perception or by an assumption. But there is another way of knowing yourself, the knowledge of your own real self, your true self, which is called the immediate knowledge, which is in Sanskrit called as aparoksha. Now, if someone of you will think that, oh my God, this is too much to understand, the time is too short, don't worry, we have the whole year. We are going to know this only. This is Vedanta. With these few words today, as you all know, we are not ending our session today over here. We are moving to a next phase, which is the question and answers. For this question and answer session, I would like to invite somebody so special, so dear, so wonderful. I could say my own spirit, the Shakti, the strength behind me. Don't worry, I'm not speaking of anybody else. I'm speaking of my wife, Rajshri.
Hi everybody, how nice to be with you all today sharing this platform. So we've had a very nice session whereby we know so many different things about Vedanta Shastra today. So let us quickly now continue to the question answer session.
Yes, but may I request now, you all can turn your cameras on, not the mic yet. Only when I ask you to, that time you can turn your mics on, please. You can turn your cameras on so that at least we'll be able to see you. Kindly. So we have received a few questions. I had expected 0 questions. Really, I had expected 0 questions. In our experience, we have seen people are reluctant to speak out. People are hesitant to say something because what if my question is silly? What if my question is not relevant? What if everyone also thinks of the same question? Somebody else will ask. Isn't it, Rashmi?
Very true.
So let me begin with a few questions that I have already received. So, shall we begin with this one, Rashmi? The Sanskrit question?
Yes, sure.
Okay, I'll read it. Since all concepts are in Sanskrit, what we are speaking, and some meaning might be lost while translating it to English, is it better to learn Sanskrit in order to completely grasp the knowledge? I will say it's a valid question. Rajshri, will you please address the question?
Yes. To understand something or to gain the knowledge of Vedanta or Shastra or scriptures, it is certainly helpful if you know Sanskrit. But if you don't know Sanskrit, it certainly does not mean that you cannot understand or learn the knowledge which is explained by the Vedas. So this misconception should be completely removed that Sanskrit is essential for the knowledge. No, it isn't. In our own experience, we were children who were educated in the English language and we had our own individual home languages which we were born into, and we did not know Sanskrit. But upon studying a proper course for 2 years and then almost 10 years now that we are having the studies of Vedanta, we did not feel the great need or urge to learn Sanskrit as in a scholar manner. But Sanskrit came to be understood eventually as we were studying and learning and got familiar with the terminology or certain words which automatically just come to you. There are a few words in English which are very common internationally, like karma, like yoga, All of these are Sanskrit words. So the more familiar you get with particular words, you will understand the meaning correctly. And so Sanskrit is not essential, though it will be helpful if you know it. I think that answers the whole question.
I'll just add one more small. We know English, isn't it? So, if somebody says, okay, I bank on you. Now the same word has how many meanings? I bank on you. Oh, so you mean to say the bank of the river? Or the bank which is the transaction bank, financial bank? No, it means banking on you means I can trust you, I can have faith in you, I can hold you sure that you will respond. So knowing Sanskrit itself is not a sure shot to know the knowledge. Please understand, when the same words are used, they have two kind of understanding of them. One is known as the Vachya Artha, the word meaning. It could be many. And the other is the Lakshya Artha, meaning the deep-rooted import which that particular sentence, that particular Upanishad, that particular Guru wishes you to be communicated. And that cannot be understood even if you are a master of Sanskrit. That will only be understood when your master, your Guru, explains to you. If there are any other questions who want to put up from there, I will be very happy to answer. But about Sanskrit we have concluded. Anyone? Okay, so we go to the next question. The next question is also very related and a good question. May I just put it? You use the term God principle to describe the absolute reality. What does this term mean? God principle. Now, whoever the person has given this question, it is very clear, Rashri, that the person has heard us carefully. And this God principle was spoken in the first talk 4-5 weeks ago. So the person really followed the instructions, that the person wrote it down. And as I had said, as the weeks go by, many a times you'll get the answer by default, and if you don't get, then you ask me again. And certainly I haven't explained the God principle as such. So I appreciate to the person who's asked this question that you are not only listening, but you're also following the instructions. We are really thankful. We are really happy that you are doing this. So, coming to the question, God principle. Should you? I'll answer. Okay. So, many people have slight allergy to the word God.
Or religion.
Or religion. So, as though these are some words which you should not be using, especially on a public platform. It is not such. We understand the meaning of God as, in English, an entity which is so supreme, so divine, so pure, so wonderful, that we have collectively given a position to it as the one who created the whole world. And everything that exists in the world, of the world, is by the person's grace. I'm not calling him or her, I'm calling it a person or the power. How do we understand this? Think about it. Is there anything that you know, we know, which doesn't have a name? Anything which doesn't have a name. It may not necessarily have a form. See, everything does not have form. For example, air has no form. Water has no form. It takes the shape of the container. But is there a name to it or not? Correct? When there is a form, or certainly there is a name of everything, there has to be somebody who has created it. Is there anything that we know which is just by itself there, non-created? You may not know who's the creator. You may not know who's the creator. But there is nothing that we know which is not created by somebody. If this is so, then logically, if such a vast earth is created, such a vast amount of variety of things are created, beings are created, the atmosphere is created, and the universe is created, and what are they, Rashmi, the many what? Galaxies and this and that. It automatically started. It just started without a creator. ये बात पचती नहीं है. I beg your pardon. This is not palatable. हाँ, we may say we don't know it, but it is for sure that something, somebody has created that. That creator, that principle we call as God principle. We don't stop there. We say that God principle and this us are not dual. They are not too different. They are the same. How? That's what we are going to learn. That's what we are going to do our journey. But to answer your question, God principle, I pray that I was able to communicate.
Yes. Since this knowledge is vast, how and where does one start to learn? Before Jagdish comes in, I would like to give my opinion about this. For any subject or anything that we need to learn, there is always a beginning. And knowledge, beginning of this vast knowledge, should also begin in the beginning. What does that mean? One should understand a little bit of background, the origins from where this knowledge started, so that you understand a mentality or a culture which has given this knowledge for the entire world. Secondly, one should understand certain basic principles or tenets on which this knowledge is founded. And then, before we go to the actual vast knowledge, it has to be done step by step, like in any other subject. Here we claim for Vedanta to be the highest of knowledge. Why so? Because it is the only knowledge which gives us knowledge about ourselves. After Jagdish has answered some more or expanded more on this particular question, if we have the time, I will like to tell you a little bit about our background, about our what we call culture. So let's pray that we have a little bit of time left for that. So Jagdish, I will ask you to go and expand about this particular.
Since the knowledge is vast, how and where does one start?
To learn.
Take a guess. Here! This is what we are doing, my dear friend. This is what we are doing. They say that how to recognize a guru, how to find a guru. There are 20,000, in the market there are so many gurus. How to find somebody? You don't find guru. What you are going to find after finding the guru, start finding that. That is knowledge. When you start pursuing the real goal, the actual goal, not just a mere wish, okay, oh, I wish I know this knowledge, and then continue your life as it is. No. Not just a ichha or a wish, but mumukshutvam, a force behind your wish, that I need to know this and I will know this, and follow the path. When you start following the path, automatically an appropriate person will come to your life and the knowledge starts coming to you. He may not necessarily be a guru. Please do not misunderstand us as guru. We are not even close to the G of guru. There he is behind. But through us, today you are gaining the beginning of these knowledge. Who knows that one day you may be so knowledgeable and so self-realized that all the world will gain knowledge through you. So this is how we begin the search.
Shall I tell them a little bit about the Vedas?
Just after this one, somebody's question again, which is inappropriate, because we have not reached this point yet, and this was not spoken in any of our 4 or 5 days. So that means this question has a root in the past knowledge or past memory of the person. And he wants to know, or she wants to know, okay, what is the answer about that? And this query is mostly, generally, everyone's query. What happens after death? What was there before birth? And how to prove that? We have not reached there, but we will reach there also. And those, at that time, we will certainly answer. But one thing I'll tell you about, one thing definitely. All education, all knowledge, all studies, all life begins with a faith. If one does not have faith, you can't step out of the house. You should have faith and confidence that when I go outside, a truck is not going to run over me. That confidence, that faith has to be there. And once you go on the road, don't just walk across. Look left, look right, and then cross, right? What does it mean? Verify your faith. And this is called Shraddha. Shraddha means have your complete faith when you begin with. But as you are walking the path, have the confidence in you to test your faith. Don't be a blind follower. Okay, oh, I am now on the path of God. I should not ask questions. No, that is not Hinduism. That is not Vedanta. Vedanta encourages you to ask questions. I hope I was able to give some answer. Yes, Rashmi, so
I'll take
we
a
have
few
some-
minutes
please.
today to give a little bit of background about what is Vedas and what is Gyan in respect to Vedas. Vedas, as probably you know now, are the books of knowledge of our culture, our meaning Indian culture, which used to be called or is still called the Sanatan culture or Sanatan Dharma. Now, before we go ahead, let us try to understand this term culture a little bit. What does it exactly mean? When we speak about culture, it means that a certain large group of people who are placed in a particular geographical region, after a long period of time, start believing and following certain faiths or certain rituals or certain philosophical beliefs which affect their mannerisms and their thought process, and that we call as culture of that place. Now this culture depends or is different in different areas of the world, and it is so because of certain conditions which were prevalent at those particular times. Sanatan culture, the roots, came on the river banks of the Indus Valley or Indus River. All civilizations, as we know, have been developed near the river banks because water was the main principle required for living, for life. And the Indian culture has its roots in the Indus Valley, or known as the Indus Valley civilization, which in our culture was known as the Sanatan Dharma, or the philosophy of this particular culture was called as Sanatan Dharma.
will you explain the word Sanatan, which has no beginning?
The word Sanatan by itself means which has no beginning or no end.
Means it is forever, since we know it.
We cannot particularly point out this date or this period that it began. It was there. And this particular culture gave us this knowledge which we later called as the Vedanta or Vedas. Now, what was this knowledge? So, once again, before we go to that part, let me just explain that in Vedanta, knowledge is of two main types. One is the knowledge of the world, which of course Jagdish has explained to you. And the second, which we are studying now or talking about, is the knowledge of the self. So it was essentially divided into knowledge of the world, or called also as bhautik knowledge, and the knowledge of the self, which was paramarthik knowledge, which was about yourself. So spiritual knowledge and the material knowledge. It is broadly divided into these two parts. Vedas deal with not only the spiritual knowledge but also the knowledge of the world. When we speak about Vedanta, we are speaking about the spiritual side of the knowledge. So what I have told you so far is that it comes from which background? Indus Valley civilization, the culture was known as the Sanatana Dharma. Civilization is only when people settle. But when the settled people start believing in certain things, it becomes the culture of that place.
Beautiful.
Then they have the knowledge, which was divided into material knowledge and the spiritual knowledge. Vedas consist of all knowledges of the world also and also of the spirit. These Vedas, after a period of time, when I say a period of time, it literally means hundreds of years, was brought together and divided properly, or let us say arranged properly, into 4 books of Vedas. I will not go into too much of detail, but they were essentially divided into 4 books. Every book had the knowledge of the world also, had the knowledge of religion in terms of rituals, and the last or the end part of it was the knowledge of the self or the spiritual knowledge, which was called Vedanta. Anta meaning end, so Vedanta. So I think I have given you a sort of a broad picture of what Vedas are. One last thing I would add. You will see in almost all religions or all cultures which have a particular religious belief, there will be some authorship of the person. Like Islam will have Prophet Muhammad, or Christianity will have Jesus Christ, or Buddhism will have Buddha, who is the founder of that particular religion. In Hinduism or in the Vedantic Sanatan culture, there is no authorization. The authority is the knowledge, the Vedas. So that is why Vedas are known as the book or the main authoritative book of knowledge. There is no authorship. And finally, one last thing, like in all religions of the world, this knowledge has been given to us by a source which we call as a Purushaya. Purush means man, man-made, and Apurusha means not of
human
origin. So, literally meaning given by the gods. So that is what the whole of the knowledge series is covered. We will slowly go into more and more details, but a general background of civilization, culture, the roots, the origins, the 4 books of Vedas. The spiritual knowledge is not of humankind, it comes from God's itself, and that is why it is also authoritative. So thank you so much for kindly listening to me. If again there are any more questions, or if anybody wants even further understanding of this, please feel free to connect and contact.
And this is the reason we chose this platform this time. As you all know, our previous 42 uninterrupted continuous day talk on the Kindle Live book, we understood one thing, that having a live video on YouTube was very one-sided. There was no communication as such. Therefore, this time after discussion, we came to this understanding that we should have a platform where we can discuss. So kindly discuss with us. And for that reason, I would request my daughter Kavita, who's also online, to send my email ID to all the members over here. I think there is a chat box, so that you can give us your feedback. Now it's been 5 weeks I have been speaking, we have been speaking. Kindly give us your feedback. Kavita, I would like you to give my Gmail address, please, not the Yahoo one. Thank you.
So shall we end our session today?
Yes, of course. Last chance for anybody, if anybody wants to ask something.
Okay, so upon this particular topic, we will say that most of the questions that you have will eventually get answered by themselves as you go deeper into the knowledge. That guarantee I can give you. And otherwise, if there are any confusions which are created by us not being so correct or good, we ask for your forgiveness, because that will be the only reason why you will not have understood something clearly. So we will try our best to explain those concepts and those knowledges to you once again. So let us end this wonderful session with prayers.
Kindly join me. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.
Thank you everyone. Goodbye.
We thank you all. We thank our gurus and our parents as always. Thank you, Amma. Thank you so much.